by local standards. Raised a few hundred feet. Good signal. Hardly any storage left in camera. Now I have to prepare for the winter. But this terrible word, mindfulness, even the phrase living in the moment. I'm sure other languages have much better ways of putting it. I like it when I have a period of just giving up, but that's not the point. The point is this. I know I got a whole load of good material over 10 years. Material. It's sad. A sad capturing of the reality of interactions between only English people who are faking their community and environmental credentials. They're basically just doing it to join a club. A lot of them because they're lonely. Anyway, but that's an intellectually difficult, almost quandary. What is loneliness? But here's the thing. Here's the real thing. Here's the thing that 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, came to me gradually. And it's the truly wonderful thing. And it's why I've listened to the absurd people, Lex Friedman, Peterson, a lot of them, McGilchrist, a lot of them talking about AI. The thing that fucks me off about this conversation, I'm going off on a tangent, but it is so beautifully personified by, I have a school friend who, in his own way, he's his own, although he was he was Jumbo Jet captain for 30 years or 25 years. But he's has a regulated personality and yet anarchistically knows there's something wrong. But everybody gets stuck. He joined the kind of, I don't understand why, UKIP, Alex Belfield kind of approach to everything. No, just tired after caring too much, even caring about myself for a few weeks. I just happened to wind down, go onto YouTube, and there's a Piers Morgan interviews Noam Chomsky interview, 50 minutes. It's absolutely wonderful. I mean, your clickbait would be Piers Morgan, whatever he is, grotesque figure of the celebrity culture, whatever, interviews, to many a kind of demigod Chomsky. I value a lot of Chomsky, not all of Chomsky, because he's too morose, he's too maudlin. He needs to get the fuck out and say, hey people, don't go online at night, not go out at night, just go to bed early, get out, be happy, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that sounds pathetic, but it's really good, because that's what life should be. Two people ostensibly almost representing the opposite can have a totally respectful and fantastic conversation. That's, and everybody with their camps and their disdain for the other camp is just achieves nothing. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, this is the thing. So, these words, mindfulness or Zen or living in the moment, it's all so confected. There is no nutrition in it. I know what there is nutrition in, bizarrely, and this is why AI, unfortunately, it may take over, but it will never be creative, because I discovered myself, bizarrely. Now, I've been like, okay, maybe I'll start writing up properly. 15 years, quite intensively for 7 or 8 years, combined with pro-EU campaigning, which means just walking around and trying to, each person, you have to try and speak with them. and, find out who might be useful if you have to build some bloody signs. No, nobody did anything in the whole marches. I know. I went everywhere, listened, spoke. Anyway, here's the point. When you're planning, okay, maybe in the winter, I'll find somewhere for a few months and just really properly write up all. I've got really good chronicles of so many interesting, it's not just discussions, it's developments of relationships or non-relationships, and why, and what is said, and what is assumed, and what bitchy sourness, and that's just the men, transpires, develops over years, with one exception. One who I met, he was being green, but in fact, I discovered, was the most uptight, really quite sick person of all. But then gradually over 4 or 5 years, in a way, I'm quite proud of this. I'm not proud of much, but I never let him get to me. I managed to bring us into a healthier central place. Anyway, to the point. I know I could sit down and write for 6 months all of those, or many of those, because a lot of them are just to the same pattern with completely different. Anyway, I could do that, but that's not creative. I know that if I'm sat here and I've got nothing and yet another fake mermaid, it's the wrong word for them actually, because they're vampires, right? They really are vampires. A couple of days ago, I never used to put pressure on people, but I've had enough. It's wrong. I've always known it's wrong. But when you don't keep to deals, when you're dealing at a very personal level, very personal, and you don't keep to deals over money, sorry, that's it. I've had enough of that. So I started to put a bit of pressure on. And 2 or 3 days ago, 10 days ago, she got a letter through her door. I've always known the truth about you. I was there standing next to somebody who asked you to help him be reunited with his sons. He had terminal cancer, and your best friend had stolen them abroad, and I'd arranged for her to be paid to be brought back, and even have a stipend when she was here. That man, I knew him well. I told him to call you. I was stood there 7 years ago. And she did nothing, despite making out that she's the chief mermaid for a whole county. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. She hasn't paid my expenses that she promised she was going to pay 9 months ago. Right. So when you got nothing, when you're right on the edge, when you're absolutely on the edge, sounds too dramatic. When there's no prospects, none, zero. That's when you're at your best. I hate this thing that it's a very British thing, or American as well. Oh, yeah, I write when I'm up against the deadline. No, it's not that. It's actually being in a place of not knowing, but assuming everybody thinks you're completely of no use. That's when you're free, and magically you can get out of the way of the words better. I'm going to have a weekend off, but if I sat down tomorrow morning and started to write, I know my flow would be even better, and just things would come back, and I may write in more florid and interesting and groovy ways. That's the way it works. Now, no AI is ever going to be doing that because it's magic. It's not understandable. It's the exact opposite of what's rational. If I sit down with my really good material that I've carefully collected and recorded and travel backed up all along, that I know is really interesting, there isn't going to be creativity and energy that comes along with that. There'll be creativity and an energy that comes along with nothing. Zero. Now, I don't actually want to be creative and energetic. I want somebody else I thought I knew to be that. Because that's esteem. I'm lucky I've got my esteem. Anyway, I better turn this off. Blah, blah.